And in just a second, I'm going to be introducing author Jessica Strawser to talk about this book right here, Forget You Know Me. I love this book so much. I already did a book review on it, and I'm going to put that link below. And I read it in like half a day. It was so amazing. And now I get to talk to her about it. So everybody, here is Jessica. Hi everyone, I am so excited because I am speaking with author Jessica Strawser again. I am so happy. Thank you so much, Jessica. And I got to read this book early and I was so excited. There it is, Forget You Know Me. And I got an early copy. I read it right away. I couldn't stop. I love your book so much. Like, I was like, I'll read it this weekend. Done Saturday morning, okay? I was like, oh my gosh. This is my all-time favorite first chapter.
Thank you.
It's I tried to think today because I was like, wait, you're making a bold statement. But I went through, I was like, have I loved a first chapter? I remember the moment I read it. I remember, how often I read 400 books last year, okay? And I remember the moment that I read your first chapter because I was like, oh. And then I'm like, I was going to go to bed and then I'm like, okay, just one more chapter. And then I think I stayed up 3 more hours. So, that's how that worked out for me.
That's the idea. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's funny because usually when I get the idea for a novel, usually it's born from, themes or for me, usually it either comes from like a theme that I've wanted to write about or a central question that's been kind of mulling around in my mind for a while. And then the story grows from that. But with this book, I actually had the idea for that opening scene. And that was the first idea I had. And I think because stories I'm not that sort of linear thinker, like this will be the first chapter and this is going to be a novel. I think I actually didn't really recognize it as like a novel idea at first. I just had this idea and I thought that would be a great idea for a story. Somebody should write that. Oh, I would like to read that. Somebody should write that. And then it would not let me go. And I just kept thinking. I was working on another book at the time, but I just kept thinking about it. And then eventually I kind of started thinking about who these characters might be. And it did turn into a novel idea. So I'm glad that you liked the opening as well. Really, that's all I had when I started. That's all I had.
I kept thinking of it as a movie. Mm-hmm. and you know how you're in on the movie and you're like, no. I kept, as I'm reading it and we're in on it and we know what's happening and she doesn't know. And I don't know, just the idea of the laptop getting slammed shut. I don't know. I never read.
Should we tell people? Do people know how the story starts? So it starts where these long distance best friends are having a video chat, and one of them sees something that nobody was meant to see on the other person's webcam. I'll just leave it at that. But it's always funny talking about it when I'm on a webcam with somebody else.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, imagine
people start getting kind of freaked out. What's happening behind them, and
yeah, and it's not a spoiler because it is the first chapter. But to me, when the person is behind and slams, because as the other person,
there's an intruder, and then he closes the laptop.
Yeah, and you're the one looking, and you're helpless. She was, miles and miles away. Wasn't next door. She was
right. She's 5-hour drive away.
Right.
Seeing this happen. And then she calls the police, and then she's trying to get a hold of her friend. And when she finally gets through to her friend is really strange, just almost like gaslighting her, almost like trying to act like whatever she saw was no big deal, and she just instantly knows that something is not right.
Yeah. And which leads me to that your last chapter is really up there high too, on because when I finished the book I was just like, okay, calm down. Just calm down. I love your book so much that, just because of that, because of the ride, and it doesn't stop and it keeps me wanting. And this book, I went on went on your website, and then I was on Amazon, and like everybody, all those authors that have read it and that are giving you blurbs on it, I wanted to cry for you, Jessica. I was like, look at all of these women, these amazing women authors that are saying this book is that good. How did that feel?
It was really, because I think, for your first, this is my third novel, and for your first novel, especially, you're really just, I think a lot of people don't know where those blurbs come from on covers, but
Right.
A lot of times they come from the author. You sort of have to ask for them.
Yes.
You have to kind of boldly ask people if they would be willing to read your book, and you're new. And so really anyone you've ever encountered or ever met, those are the people you usually go to. And so, for my first and my second novels, I've asked pretty much everyone I know
Right.
if they could blurb me. So for this book and trying to get some new reviews, we actually went out to, and my publisher assisted with going out to some authors who I just admire so much and I love their work, but who I don't have any kind of personal connection to. And this was one where, my editorial team at St. Martin's Press
Who I love.
went to some more established authors and said, we have this up and coming book, and we'd really love for you to take a look at it. And people like Sally Hepworth, the amazing Australian talent, Sally Hepworth, and Michelle Campbell, who wrote It's Always the Husband, which I love that novel. That was one of my favorite novels a couple years ago when it came out that year. They just came through with really just really nice things to say, and it meant a lot to me. So.
Yeah, like Kate Quinn. I think Kate Quinn. Just all these amazing authors, and I was like so happy. I'm like, oh, this is your third book. This is so amazing for you, and I was just so happy for you because I think they're seeing what I got to see, 2 books ago. Like you are just that good, and to be in that encouraging for you, and it just makes so
that's really nice of you to say. I don't know. The goal is to get hopefully a little bit better every time. And yeah, actually, my Publisher's Weekly review came out just a couple of weeks ago, and I've gotten favorable reviews for all my novels in Publisher's Weekly, but this is the first time I ever got a starred review from Publisher's Weekly. So that was very exciting.
That's awesome. And when I go on Amazon, and I never ever read reviews, but when I read reviews today, I was all mad because I think your books are they're domestic women's fiction, whatever Amazon and thriller, and people are like, I'm confused, and it's like, you don't have to, who cares what genre it is, who cares what Amazon says it is, I don't care, and I think if that first chapter doesn't ring suspense, I don't know. So I just want to clear that up for everybody. Who cares what genre it is? It is suspenseful, but it is women's fiction, and it does have relationships, which puts it in that women's fiction genre, is the relationships that you explore in this book, which
I think with this book especially, I think, well, it's a hazard. If you're writing kind of across genres, readers do have certain expectations that they bring to a book. But yeah, if people have one criticism of this novel, they're like, well, I thought that this was a thriller, and it's more than that. It's about relationships, and yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily classify it as a thriller, but it does start with that kind of heart in your throat moment between these friends, but then it backs up to call it Forget You Know Me, and I think it starts with this moment of I thought I knew you, to progressing to sort of I don't know if I even want to know you, between these women, as they kind of realize that one of them is hiding something, and they thought they'd grown apart, but this is sort of the catalyst that kind of blows everything out of the water in this friendship, and then also in the one woman's marriage, to just kind of make everybody confront all these things that they've been kind of, brushing under the rug.
Yeah, and I do love I love the marriage relationship and the dynamic of them. I love that. And, as we get older, and I'm way older than you, but it's like our women relationships can get so difficult between family, and careers. And, those are always the ones that are going to break first because it's so hard to maintain, which is how that first chapter, it's like, oh, it's felt like years. Oh, it should feel like we just talked. But, it's just so hard as women to maintain. I don't know. I feel like maybe because I'm a woman, but I look at guys and I'm like, see how easy it is for them? They're like, hey, want to golf? Want to do that? but like for women, we're so emotional. We're so emotionally attached to our friendships and our families, and then we put so much into our families, and then it takes so much energy to keep. And that's kind of where they were at, because she has small children.
Right.
Oh, and then let us not, nobody brought this up in the reviews, which I was like, how can we not bring up Eleanor Roosevelt and all the amazing quotes you used? I'm a huge fan. And as I'm reading this, I'm like, I'm like applauding you. I'm like, you did that so good. I loved it. I love that so much.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think there are a lot of people who, I don't know, I'm approaching 40. I'm turning 40 this year. I probably shouldn't say that.
Okay,
but
I was thinking you were like 35. I was thinking on the high, like 34, 35. So.
No, turning 40 this year. But I do think you look around at the people around you and you kind of move from that period where everybody's getting married and then all of your friends are having babies to you reach a point where suddenly people are getting divorced or the people who don't live in your town anymore. When you all do have those small babies and you can't travel as much, you kind of realize one day that the people who you still call your best friends and still think of as your best friends are people who maybe you haven't seen in a really long time. And I think those relationships just change. It's like people who used to be a part of your day to day are still a really meaningful part of your life. And we've all had those weekends where you plan a girls trip or something and you can kind of pick back up, right? I feel everyone always leaves saying like, oh, it's like we could just pick back up where we left off. And I love you guys so much. But there is a difference between that and really being a part of somebody's day to day where you really know. And so I do think it's a point in life where a lot of friendships change or, get shifted to the side a little bit. And I was kind of wanting to explore that in the story. And can you come back from that? If both people are kind of sad that this has happened, as is often the case, how do you turn that around? And can you?
Yeah, I know with me, I have 6 children. Okay, so as I was raising my children, my best friends became the sporting event people. Like if I was at baseball.
Those are the people who you see.
Yeah. Like those, even though you don't have like an intimate relationship with them, you're seeing them, all the time. So it's like they become your more friends than your actual friends because it just is where you're being placed,
Exactly.
So that's also something else that happens. Like you said, once the baby showers end, you're in real life. Like the baby showers are over and you're like, okay.
It's like nobody else, there aren't these things happening where everyone's going to get together unless somebody makes the effort of saying, okay, we're all going to get together. Yes. This is how we're going to do it. Let's coordinate our schedules. And then you just give up because you can't no one can coordinate their schedules. And
school, sports, everything starts taking over in your life, and then it just becomes very difficult. But anyway, I just thought, I think I wrote down a quote. I wrote down so many quotes, and I had already done a book review. I'm going to put that underneath here because right after I read it, I'm like, I have to talk about this book. I know that it's early, but I was like, let me just put the video out there so that when the book comes out, everybody is like well aware of it. But, yeah, this was one of my favorites. She wanted to say yes, which meant she had to say no. I was like, and I read that, I'm like, how many times in my life have I been in that situation? We don't even have to say what the situation was. We just have to take that quote and be like, right. Exactly. But that's another thing you have such amazing quotes throughout your books. And do you know, like when you wrote that, did you know? Were you like, oh, that's going to be quoted?
No, I never. It's kind of you to say. Actually, There's a book club that I go to. It's a neighborhood book club in my town, and they invited me for my first book, and we drank a lot of wine and had fun. And so now they invite me back every time I have a new book coming out, which is really kind of them. But that's the thing that their book club does. Like, they all will bring their favorite quotes from a book to the meeting, and it's odd being there. They do it. Usually the author is not there, but they do it even when I am there, and it's a really interesting thing, like seeing the different things that people pick. And Goodreads has a function too, where you can see quotes that people have highlighted from your book, and it's interesting to see what resonates with people. And it very often isn't the same line. So
right, and I'm sure they look at you like, okay, so like, how'd you write that? And you're like, I don't know, I was writing. It just came out. I have no idea. But we always think, as a reader, we're like, I wonder what she was thinking. I wonder if she knew. I wonder if she wrote it down and was like, I'm going to use this. I wonder if you know, as readers, that's what we think you're doing. You're plotting quotes as you're writing the book, you know?
Yeah, no, actually, usually if there's a line that I like too much, I usually feel like it's probably overwritten and I need to take it out.
Right, so, that can happen too, because you're like, I heard that before. I know it, you know.
I edited out the ones that I like the most.
Well, okay, so these 3 books have come out pretty quick. This book is coming out in 2 weeks.
Very beginning of February. Forget You Know Me.
Yes. Yep. So
and my book from last year, I don't have it here to hold up. My 2018 book, Not That I Could Tell, just came out in paperback, and it's at Target, which is so exciting. I actually went and saw it today. It's in Target. So,
you know what? Whenever I
mean, it's in bookstores as well, but it's also in Target.
But when you guys make it in Target, because I know that that is like difficult. And I usually take pictures and send my authors. I'm like, look I found you at Target. Because it's like, I don't know. There's something about Target because people buy so many books there. And there's very little space. They only have 3 rows and that's it. So
they don't have very many. They don't have very many books. So, yeah, there aren't very many to choose from. And also, just a sad fact of the world is that a lot of towns don't have a big chain bookstore anymore, or they don't even have a small independent bookseller, and even if they do, the selection there is limited too. So, but Target seems to be everywhere.
Yeah.
My town there are probably 3 bookstores that I could drive to easily in a radius that has 8 Targets that I could drive to. So I wish that things weren't that way, but it's definitely helpful. You feel like you can reach more readers that way.
Yeah. I moved my son into college last weekend. Of course, I kept going to Target. I was down in Florida, and I kept going to Target, and I realized I hit 3 different Targets outside of his college campus that were all different. So every time you walk into one, you're like, I have no idea. But yes, I understand, because I had a very Target weekend last weekend. So that's what happens. But I just want to tell everybody, so it's coming. This video will be out, before the book comes out, but just to be ready, you can pre-order it on Amazon right now. You can go on there. I'm going to put the link listed below. And what do you think of the cover? Were you happy? Before I let you go,
I loved it. Yes, the final. I don't have the finals in yet, but in the finals, there's this photograph that looks like it's been kind of bent and wrinkled, and it actually has that texture to it.
Yeah.
Finals where you can feel the book in it. It almost looks like, I have no idea how they did it. Short of someone punching the books as they came off the assembly line. I had no idea how they did it, so it's really neat.
Yeah. Well, I always love your titles too. You get the best titles. As soon as I saw that title, I'm like, yes, I want to know. I want to read this book. I love all your titles. So I am so happy for you, and I can't wait for your next one. Are we writing one right now?
I am. Yeah, I was writing it right before I started talking to you. So hopefully that will be out in 2020, and maybe we can chat again about that one next year.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jessica. You made my day. And
you made mine. Thank you, Michelle.
All her links will be listed below, everyone, and we will talk soon. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Talk to her forever. I love her so much. There's so much to talk about with this book, and her and I could just talk, okay, obviously. And thank you so much, Jessica. I can't wait for your next book, which hopefully by the end of the year I will have seen, and I will always talk to you. So everybody right here, you can go down to the link listed below on Amazon, pre-order it, and watch the book review, because I think I talk about way more. I don't even remember, but I think I talk about way more about the book. But her and I could talk all day long. So thank you, thank you. And if you like the video, please hit like. Till tomorrow, everyone.